Good morning, AP students. Before we get started, I would just like to say I've sent out an email to everybody just trying to update them. Normally, when we do the test, the day of the test, I provide breakfast that morning just because I want kids to be prepared for the test. Well, because we're having a different format, I can't really provide breakfast for you guys. But I was thinking instead of giving out like little $5 gift cards, maybe to like a Sonic or I don't know. If it was my world, it'd be a donut shop. But something like that. So if you have a preference or if you got an idea, let me kind of know. This is just for students. Instead of giving it to every student, I'm going to just give it to select students who are actually trying to review well on the test and communicate with me and basically, sending me stuff saying, hey, look, I'm trying to do good on this test. And whether or not you do, we'll see. But you're trying. And so if you're trying to, then I want to kind of reward you. And those students that aren't really sending me anything, well, good riddance to them. I don't know what to tell you. But if you got a preference one way or the other, kind of let me know. And if you don't even care about it at all, hey, Mr. Nichols, I don't care about that. Don't worry about it. Then you can kind of let me know. With that being said, let's get to today's topic. Yesterday, we went over how to write contextualization, and you got some practice in. And if you sent it to me, I've probably already commented and sent it back. If not, get to it as soon as you can. Today, we're going to go over understanding how to write a document. Understanding how to write about the document. This may be a little bit out of order for some people, and so I'm going to kind of pull up. This is the DBQ essay format. I'll put this with today's stuff if you want it. The order of events, the day that you take the test, first thing you need to do, cat out of the bag, is read and understand the question. I'm going to demonstrate. I demonstrated that a little bit yesterday. It's basically you read the question, kind of put it in your own words, so that you understand exactly what it's asking you. Next, you need to read and analyze all the documents. Read them, but then write a few notes about them. I'm not saying you have to write a bunch, but write a few things down. Maybe highlight a few things or underline them. Number 3, the next thing you need to do, organize your thoughts. Before you ever start writing or typing your essay, it's good to kind of put down a plan of, okay, I might say this, I want to say this, I want to say that. These documents go together really well, and so I can kind of combine them into a body paragraph. And then the last thing, of course, is to write your essay. Okay. With that being said, why am I not talking about thesis today? If you're writing your essay, you're going to write your contextualization first. You should. Then you write your thesis. Then you write your body paragraphs. And then at the end, you restate your thesis. Why am I not talking about thesis today? Because the second thing you would do after reading and understanding your question is to read the documents. And you can't really formulate a thesis without reading the documents. Your thesis has to come from, hey, these are what the documents are saying. I've looked at the documents, I've read the documents, and this is what I say. This is what I'm arguing the documents are saying, and this is how they're answering the question. So you really have to read the documents first. So before we go over how to write a thesis, we're going to have to go over some of the documents. And that's why we're skipping thesis right now, and we're going to come back to technically contextualization. You can do that without reading a document. Yesterday you didn't read any documents. All you did was read the question. We wrote a contextualization. That's just background knowledge. Okay, so when we read and understand the question, let's go to it. It's right here. It's under evidence. Evidence from the documents. To earn 1 point, you must accurately describe the content from at least 2 of the documents rather than simply quote. And by the way, to get your 3 points, you're going to have to continually tell me what that document says. This is probably the easiest point. I've not seen anybody not do this one, but it's important that I show you this one because a lot of kids are thinking that when they accurately describe the document, it's supporting their argument. And you need to recognize and see the difference between the two. So that's why I'm going to go over understanding the documents, because you get points for telling me what the document says, but then you also get points for, hey, it's supporting my argument. And so I'm going to kind of show you those two things separately so you're going to get a better understanding of it. So let's get right to it. Okay, yesterday we basically had, hey, this same prompt. You're going to be looking at some of the same prompts. The question is, using the documents provided, evaluate the effects of various strategies implemented by governments that promoted their own state-sponsored visions of industrialization during the period 1750 to 1900. What's the first thing that I need to do? I need to read and understand that question. What is that question asking me? That question is simply asking me, what plan did governments put in place to gain an advantage over other countries, or what did that government do to gain an advantage with industrialization? Okay, so that's what we're looking for when we read this document, is how was this government using industrialization to get an advantage? All right, now we're going to look at a document, and it's basically just a table, and it's got a bunch of information. It's got figures indicating the success of German railway construction during that time period. Here's the source. The source, if you're going to put something down, it's a later source. It's not a primary source. This one, it's after the fact. Right away, what do you see? Well, you see the German people, railway construction is increasing. This is, and it's not stated here, it's stated down here, the length of the railway network. So what you're looking at is how many miles of railway they put down. And you're really seeing an increase. It went from 5 to then 7 to then 11. And you see a big jump from 1865 to 1870 and from 1870 to 1873. Now, if you know that time period, what is happening in Germany? Well, Germany, up to this point right here, was just a bunch of little bitty states. And after this point right here, they become a unified country. So it's kind of before Germany became a country, after Germany becomes a country. Obviously, once they become a country, what happens? Industrialization is increasing. So you see the amount of railway they got in their country is increasing. That's number one. The document is also showing us workers employed. And there's three types of workers: an ad hoc worker, which is just a temporary worker whenever they're needed. They could be a seasonal type of worker, a farmhand, whatever, but that's what ad hoc means, is just whenever they're necessary. Then you've got permanent workers, and then you've got in Prussia, which is the heartland of Germany, permanent workers in the heartland of Germany. And what do you see here? You see, because they're putting down railroads, Germans are getting more jobs. And they're getting permanent jobs. You went from 26,000 permanent jobs to 200,000 in 13 years. Well, no, that would be 23 years. Sorry, I'm not a math teacher. That's a lot of jobs. And not only that, but you're getting a lot of ad hoc temporary workers too. So it's one of the things you could say it's doing is it's increasing jobs. Passengers and freight. Freight is, you use trains for a couple different things. Number one, transporting people, whether they're tourists or otherwise. And then freight is just, that train is simply just transporting trade goods. So that's freight. So what is the German railway construction doing? It's increasing freight transportation. Yes, it's increasing people transportation. But notice right here, it went from 5 to 10. Well, you can move more trade goods when you got more railroads. I'm just going to stop right here. We could keep going down. What is it doing? What do you see railway construction doing? Railway construction is helping their economy. It's putting people to work. It's helping them transport goods quickly across the countryside. All you got to do is tell me what the document is saying. And so you can pause the video and write up your own. I've already kind of pre-written one down. I'm going to copy and paste it up here. I had it down here. So I'm going to copy this and paste it up here so that you guys can see it. But essentially, the effect the German state-sponsored industrialization shown in this document is more German people getting jobs. Could I have said more German people getting jobs and an increase in trade? I could have. But I don't have to tell everything. I'm just going to tell you some things about the document. More people are getting jobs. This effect is seen in the dramatic increase in numbers of German workers permanently employed in this construction. And then I give you specifics. Again, I'm not quoting. A lot of kids think that maybe this is a quote, but I'm making reference to what this document is saying. In 1850, there's 26,000, and then a few years later, we move up to around 230,000 in 23 years. So I'm giving you some numbers from this. Again, don't quote. If I'm looking down at one of these here, quickly looking at document 2, it's a Buddhist priest. The money that a factory girl earned was more often more than a farmer's income for the entire years. For these rural families, the girls were an invaluable source of income. The poor peasants during this period had to turn over 60% of their crops to the landlord. The peasants' only salvation was the girls who went to work in the factories. Don't quote the document, but do make reference to, obviously, poor peasants. Do make reference to the girls. If you're going to put in a small quote, it would be like, only salvation. Girls were the only salvation for peasants, or the only salvation for girls. The peasants' only salvation was the girls who went to work in the factories. So you would give a small quote like only salvation, invaluable source of income. Don't quote the whole thing, just give a small little tidbit. But it's better to actually put it in your own words than it is to quote. I'm just going to tell you right now, if you quote right off the bat, that's not a good thing. Put it in your own words. Don't quote. Put it in your own words. Don't quote. If you're looking at a table, you have to quote. If you're looking at specific years and numbers, like if you're going to put 60%, well, then obviously you have to use that number. But try to put it in your own words. Don't just take what it says. Again, specific numbers, specific dates, you have to put those things in. Specific names, whether it's the source, you have to put those things in. But essentially, all you guys got to do is read the document and tell me what the document says. That's it. Today's assignment is going to be quick and easy. So go down through here, pick a couple of different documents, meaning practice. There's a practice 1. Here's the question. I've given a couple documents. So if you're picking number 1, make sure you do both of these. If you're picking number 2, make sure you do both of those. And what I'd like for you guys to do is there's different choices down through here, but out of the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, basically read 4 documents here and put them in your own words. When I say read 4 documents, basically you choose number 1 and you choose number 2. You've got 1 document, 2 documents, 3 documents, and 4. And then don't have to do the rest of it. However you want to do it, but make sure you guys do at least 4 documents. You could pick one from each different question if you wanted to. So there you guys go. Have a good day.